Hey, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and this is David, aka Darth Gerbil's Goth 3 Designs Grand Master Graflex. I just finished this guy up, and I am super happy with how it came out. It is all brass with nickel-plated parts, and I will go into detail and in depth and kind of break it down and show you guys how everything works, what's going on all around with this, that, and the other thing. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get started. This was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's not the most difficult lightsaber to build, but it is extremely complex, and for whatever reason this one was just very buggy as far as the build goes. It required a lot of, redoing a lot of different parts, so it took a long time. But the good thing was that in doing that, in redoing things, it gave me extra time to kind of rethink design choices, to come up with some new strategies and some new customizations. So I think in the end it was worth it, and hopefully there's some new stuff here for you guys to take home from it. So let's just jump right in. This is essentially a full metal kit when you get the chassis. Here is a picture of what the kit looks like when you get it unfinished. If you buy it directly from Goth 3D, this is what you get. But ordering it directly through Goth 3 Designs is actually a pretty good deal too. There's not a lot of markup at all, and they do give you all the electronics and other parts needed for the build. So for those of you guys who are interested in building something like this but don't know exactly what all the parts are you need to buy, or necessarily know where to get them from, or if you're getting the right part or from a reputable source, Goth 3 Designs takes that whole problem out of the thought process, and just lets you have the peace of mind to know that, hey, everything you need is going to be in the kit and you're going to be good to go. So, but as you can see, everything is brass, and that is where we began this build. Everything was brass, and I did a lot of nickel plating to accomplish this finish. So as you can see, for example, down here on the electronics cover, this part has got a nice shiny chrome-ish finish to it, which is a nickel plating, and it has 2, 4, 6, 8 little tiny N52 magnets that hold on to the main section of the chassis here, so it can just, and it's nice and stable, as you can see. Nothing's going anywhere. Now, on the opposite side, we've got another panel, which is a battery cover, which is also magnetized with 2, 4, 6, 14. There are 2 up top, and then 12 magnets running down the sides here that magnetize basically right around the battery. But this lightsaber runs on a removable, flat-topped 18650. It can be set up to be run on a button-topped 18650 if you like. But the way I did it was intended to take advantage of the Molicel M35 battery, because this is basically the best 18650 battery you can get for a lightsaber these days, because it's got the most capacity while still having a really high drain. 3500 milliamp hour, 15 amp battery. Inside the compartment, we've got a nice Italian leather backing to the chamber, and then a spring-loaded and a non-spring-loaded battery contact section here, positive to the top, and that just pops in. And as you can see, that's also very, very stable and secure. Next up, we've got the speaker hanging out down here. This is also removable. Twist and slide down. It's got 2 pegs that essentially lock it in place, and then 3 more magnets down here that magnetize to the bottom of the main chassis. And that locks in place. We've got a little window cut out here, which is intended for an LED, but what I prefer to do in this case is to go with a larger speaker. So what I did here was put a 31mm speaker instead of a 28mm speaker, which requires you to machine out the inside of this brass section down here so that the larger speaker will fit, and then you have to remove a bunch of material from the plastic section as well so that it will also fit in there. But the main reason I didn't put the little LED in that little hole is because what I wanted to do was have all 4 pins available for speaker connection, because this guy does actually have a bit of a tendency to have a somewhat tenuous connection, and if you're swinging it around and going wacky with it, the 2 pogo pins sometimes will come out of alignment a little bit, and you'll get a little bit of static, or you may lose audio. So if you have 4 pogo pins instead of 2 doing your speaker connection, that whole issue is taken care of. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So additional, basically extra audio pogo pin connection there, just for durability. Then at the bottom, you guys can also see we've got SD card access and micro USB access down here. Then this whole panel is held on by 2, I think these are M2 screws, and then 2 M1.4 screws down here. So this is nice and sturdy, but can easily be removed just with the screwdriver, and then this whole section will pop right off. Next up, we've got the 2 halves of the saber itself. This breaks down for a couple of reasons. 1, because it's fun, and 2, because of the new Saber Secure feature. This is the first lightsaber in history to have built-in saber security. And when I say that, I'll show you guys what I mean by that later, but it's a lot like your cell phone or your tablets these days have a pin and a locking feature, which, if stolen, your cell phone or tablet is not going to work unless the culprit has your pin. And in this case, this Graflex has Saber Secure, meaning that if stolen, this lightsaber is not going to work either unless the culprit has your kyber crystal. So that, David, is key. Make sure that you know where your kyber crystal is at all times, because without it, your lightsaber will not work. So it's a security feature for peace of mind, essentially. You don't have to worry about thieves, but also you're not going to have to worry about, the neighbor's kids or your nosy uncle who wants to come over and get drunk and play with all your toys. And it's a problem that all of us who own lightsabers face these days. What happens when you have such a dangerous weapon in your house? Are you going to buy a safe to keep it safe? That's going to take up a lot of room. It's expensive. But you don't want to have your neighbor's kids come over and cut their arm off either, right? So, it's a trade-off. And this new Saber Secure feature takes care of that. If you just remove the kyber crystal, this lightsaber is completely kid safe now. You can't cut your arms off. You can't burn an eye out. You can't start the house on fire. It's not going to emit a blade at all, which is just, it's nice peace of mind for those of you guys who worry about that kind of thing. And it might even save on a homeowner's insurance. You never know. Now, this little side panel, also magnetized, 6 and 52 magnets, and they cover the kyber crystal window here, as well as a door that gives access to the internals. But there is really not much back there, so I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on that. Now, the next feature we have is the plasma aligning mechanism here. And this is a rotating plasma aligner, which essentially finagles the magnetic field through its rotation and these electromagnetically wound, coil wound arms, which operate to align the electron streams. And all of that, of course, is really obvious once it's turned on, but we'll get to that. Then up top, we've got, obviously, your power button, your auxiliary button, both tucked in nice little areas here. A coolant tube running up into the very top to keep the top heatsink sections cooled, and additional heat venting on the side. Now let's fire her up and see just how she works. So to do that, you want to remove the electronics cover here, and you'll find that we've got 2 switches on this side and an additional switch on this side. Now the largest switch on the top is your power switch. So this guy's running Proffie OS version 6.9, which is the most current. And then, as I noted, there are 2 additional switches. The first one, if you flick that guy up, you'll see a green light begin flashing over here, and that is your Bluetooth indicator light. It tells you that the Bluetooth is on but not connected if it's flashing. If it is connected, it goes solid like that. And if it's solid, that means what you can do is then go to your ForceSync app, select the proffieboard, remote control function, and then now you have an active, because it's not blinking, Bluetooth connection that allows you to fully control your lightsaber remotely, with all the usual features that Bluetooth always has that you would expect it to have. You can turn the volume down, even mute it, crank it all the way up. And this is a nice loud saber too. Toggle through your blade presets. You can play your audio tracks. Each blade preset has its own audio track. And they try to, I try to match them up with the appropriate blade style. So Imperial March, obviously, is going to go with your red blade style.
I see you have constructed a new lightsaber.
And also you try to match up your force quotes to the character as well.
I see you have constructed a new lightsaber.
I did, Darth. Thanks for noticing. Ah, thank you.
You know what I've come for.
And so as you guys can see, we've also got a standard Graflex style blade plug. Just simply slides in, empty housing, illuminated by this Stock Custom Works 16 pixel blade connector with a custom diffusing screen. And this is uniquely impressive for any animated blade, especially a fire blade, because it runs around in a really fun pattern, and because it's sequential, it gives you a really outstanding 360 view of what, you know, fire looks like in 360. And now you probably have also noticed that the blade connector as well as the kyber crystal has a ramping effect. And what I mean by that is when the blade extends, the kyber crystal immediately becomes active, but it doesn't reach its full potency for a few seconds because it takes a while for the demands of the lightsaber blade to really, you know, put a sufficient draw on the kyber crystal itself. So now she's about at full brightness now. And the same goes for the blade emission up top. And now you'll notice that, of course, the spinning plasma alignment mechanism is not spinning, and that's on purpose because what I wanted to do was give you the option, David, of having that on or off. So this third switch on this side over here, that controls the spinning plasma aligner. Now, as far as the spinning mechanism goes, as you guys can see, it's not just constantly spinning, but it is using a microprocessor to actively monitor the crystal's output, and taking that into account, use the phase shifting electromagnetic fins there to align the plasma to produce the strongest, most consistent blade it possibly can. And depending on the color, it may do different, it may spin differently to align the appropriate electrons. So as you can see, this is spinning a lot more than the solid blue blade, because this is a blue fire blade, which evidently requires a whole lot more manipulation to keep that intensity of a blade running at full power. And now when you turn the saber off, of course, you get the cooldown effect, just, you know, as opposed to the warming up effect. It ramps up in brightness and ramps down in brightness as it powers up or powers down. Now, let's see. I guess the next thing to show you guys is, yeah, okay, so the other thing to point out is, of course, you have your main controls up top here to sync to the Graflex hilt. You also have a second set of buttons down here that will do the same thing. The top button is your main activation, and then this second button down here is auxiliary. And that's just for convenience. And then I guess finally, got the OLED display panel down here, and what it does is it initially gives you a battery indicator, and then there are animations that represent the ongoing process up here of the electric radiation up here, and the overall power cycling of the lightsaber itself, which are also visually represented by these pixel bars, which show you the strength of the electricity and plasma flowing through the saber, which is obviously, as you can see, at full power. And I do have it set up so that for each blade there is a bit of a different style of indicator going on down here, just for fun, really. They all do the same thing. They all tell you what, you know, the status of the electronics and whether things are working as they should be. So let's put this guy into the hilt so you guys can see how that works and how it works, how it functions when it's all assembled, etc., etc. Go ahead and start by pulling the cover and just turning it on. I'm gonna turn on Bluetooth just because I think we're gonna use Bluetooth, and I'm gonna turn on the, well, actually no, let's turn off the spinning motor. So pull the blade plug, get your Graflex, pop open the clamp, and this is a very straightforward chassis install. You just want to loosen or remove the glass eye, slide the entire chassis up into the top half of the Graflex so that the main activation button lines up with the red button. And just make sure when you're doing that, you're lining up the hole where the glass eye goes with the hole in the chassis. And then reinsert your glass eye, and that's all there is to it. That glass eye locks it in place, so now it won't fall out. You can check, double check by hitting all your buttons to make sure that you've got it all lined up. Now, when it's installed like this, you can still see the crystal if the Graflex clamp is removed, which is pretty cool. That's a nice display setup right there. If the Graflex clamp is on there, then you can only see from about here down. So, for display purposes, this might be a preferable setup right here. To finish putting it together, just slide it up, twist, lock, and then lock the Graflex clamp. Nice and loud. This is a very good loud saber, that's for sure. I think the volume is set at around 2000 right now, so it's not even close to max volume either, but we'll check that. I just put the blade plug in real quick. Effects are looking good there. I'm gonna swap the blade plug out for the blade. This is the only real kind of tricky part. It can be tricky to kind of get a hold of. Insert the blade, you simply slide it in there and just kind of twist and push until it's all the way in there and seated, and then you can reinstall the glass eye. And you just want to screw it on so it's finger tight plus a, maybe a quarter revolution, and then just double check, make sure the blade's nice and seated. Looking good. Let's go ahead and connect up with the Bluetooth. Yeah, the volume, as I said, was turned down. It's at 2200, so that's how loud this guy is. I'll put it up to full blast for you guys. Nice and loud. Turn it back down to 2000 again. Doesn't need to be that loud. That's one of the really nice things about the Bluetooth program, is the ability to change the volume on the fly. So initial blade preset is your standard bright blue, localized lockup, drag tip, etc.
You'll find I'm full of surprises.
Force quotes for Luke.
Your overconfidence is your weakness.
Next up is a New Hope cool blue, or almost white. This is a unstable blue, which is essentially a blue-white audio flicker. Then we have the electricity blade, which is a cyan and I think it's a cyan and white audio flicker. The Tron blade, aka color cycle blade. Blue fire blade. Purple Mace Windu blade. Green ROTJ Return of the Jedi blade. love that blade lockup sound right there. Next up we've got a yellow-white audio flicker contrast blade. Standard red blade with spark on ignition.
Only your hatred can destroy me. You underestimate the power of the dark side.
Standard flyer blade.
When I kill you, I will have killed the last Jedi.
I misspoke earlier, so that's the Tron blade. The first blue cycling blade was the turbine blade. And back to the first preset, which is your standard blue Graflex blade. I love this sound font. This is the Light V2 by K-Sith. And that, in a nutshell, is the blade presets. So now as to how this guy works, you just mess around with it. Put the blade plug back in. Now if you want to take it apart, just kind of show it off. As I said earlier, you could either slide just the bottom section off, leaving the Graflex clamp in place, and this is what you see. Or you can pull the clamp off with the bottom of the Graflex. You get a much better crystal chamber shot. But you can also, which is really nice with this chassis design, you can slide the whole thing right out. And as you can see, remaining inside is the whole top half with the rotating plasma alignment section here. And with the additional buttons, here, so you still have full control over the saber, its controls, if you want to get in here and, you know, toggle through your blades, see what's going on, test them out, or just kind of enjoy your graphical readouts. I don't know if I actually showed you guys the Saber Secure feature, which I was talking about earlier. You know, what do you do when you have kids around the house, or your drunk uncle, or your wacky neighbor is over, and you have to run out and get milk or something like that. You don't want to leave a lightsaber around where somebody can end up hurting themselves or burning your house down. So the simple answer is just take your kyber crystal out with you. You know, pull this guy out, stick it in your pocket, maybe put it on a chain, and saber is no longer effective.
Primary crystal error.
matter what you do,
Primary crystal error.
you are not going to be able to get this thing
Primary crystal error.
to work without the kyber crystal. So you have some serious peace of mind now as far as security and safety goes. Even when you reinstall it into the hilt itself. Still nada. I mean, you can see it's trying. But it's just not. Doesn't have what it needs. It doesn't have the juice without the kyber crystal. And then when you get back from running your errands, just pop this guy back in, and Bob's your uncle. Then when you're done with it, David, always remember, kill your main power switch so you don't drain your battery. Or you can just pull the battery out. Problem solved. Either way. I really like the leather backing in there. It's beautiful looking. Just a nice little extra touch that gives it a little bit of class. And then finally, don't forget about the controls for your Bluetooth and your spinning plasma alignment mechanism. And that's about it for this guy. Thank you guys as always for watching. David, this was a pleasure. It was a challenge and a pleasure. I hope you like it. Let me know, of course. You guys stay tuned. I have a backlog of commissions that have been on hold because of this guy taking forever. That means there should be a number of videos coming, in rapid succession. So thanks as always for watching.